The first time someone noticed him, it wasn't because of what he said. It was because of what he carried. At 2:17 a.m., while the rest of the city slept and the office lights flickered in long, empty corridors, Daniel Carter stepped out of the elevator with a sleeping child in his arms and a mop in the other hand. His daughter, Lily, barely stirred as her head rested against his shoulder, her tiny fingers curled into his shirt. The security camera caught everything: the quiet determination in his tired eyes, the careful way he balanced work and fatherhood in a world that seemed to make space for neither. No one was supposed to see that footage. But someone did. And everything changed. Daniel hadn't always worked nights. Once, he had a steady job as a technician at the very same company whose floors he now cleaned. He was good at it too, problem-solving, staying late to fix issues others couldn't. He believed in building something stable, something his wife used to call a future you can trust. But life doesn't always follow plans. After his wife passed away unexpectedly, everything unraveled faster than he could catch it. Medical bills piled up. He missed too many days trying to care for Lily. Eventually, the company let him go, not out of cruelty, but policy. Policy didn't care that he had a 3-year-old who cried herself to sleep asking for her mother. Policy didn't care that Daniel hadn't slept properly in months. So Daniel adapted. He took the only job available at the same company, night janitor. Less pay. No benefits. No recognition. But it was something. And for Lily, something was enough. Every night, Daniel would tuck Lily into a makeshift bed in the storage room, a small mattress, a blanket with faded cartoon stars, and her favorite stuffed rabbit. He'd whisper stories to her about brave little girls and quiet heroes, kissing her forehead before stepping out to clean the very offices he once worked in. It wasn't ideal. It wasn't fair. But it was theirs. During the nights, something else happened, something no one noticed. Daniel didn't just clean. He fixed things. At first, it was small, resetting a malfunctioning system, adjusting a server rack, correcting a wiring issue he recognized instantly. Old habits didn't disappear. They just found new ways to exist. Then it grew. He started staying a little longer in the server room after his shift, studying the systems, remembering how things worked. When no one was watching, he began solving deeper problems, things that had been slowing down the company for months. He never told anyone. He didn't sign his work. He just did it. Because somewhere deep down, Daniel still believed in the person he used to be. And because fixing things made him feel like maybe, just maybe, his life wasn't completely broken. One night, everything went wrong. It started with an alarm. A critical system failure, something that threatened to shut down operations across multiple departments. It was the kind of problem that usually required a full team, hours of coordination, and costly downtime. But it was 3:06 a.m. There was no team. Just Daniel. He heard the alarm while mopping the third floor. For a moment, he froze. "This isn't my job anymore," he whispered to himself. But then he thought of Lily, sleeping in that small room. He thought of the paycheck he couldn't afford to lose. And he ran. The server room was chaos, red warning lights flashing, systems glitching, error messages stacking faster than they could be read. Daniel didn't hesitate. He moved like someone who had done this 100 times before, because he had. His fingers flew across keyboards. He rerouted processes, isolated the failing components, manually stabilized the system piece by piece. Sweat dripped down his forehead, his breath uneven, but his focus never broke. Minutes felt like hours. And then, silence. The alarms stopped. The system stabilized. The impossible problem was solved. Daniel leaned back in the chair, exhausted, staring at the screens as they returned to normal. He let out a quiet breath. Just like before, he murmured. What he didn't know was that someone had been watching the entire time. From a secure remote connection, the company's CEO, Margaret Hayes, had logged in after being alerted to the system failure. She expected to see disaster. Instead, she saw a janitor doing the work of an entire engineering team. And doing it flawlessly. The next morning, Daniel was called into the office. He thought he was in trouble. Maybe they found out about Lily staying overnight. Maybe they were going to fire him for touching systems he wasn't authorized to handle. He held Lily's hand tightly as he walked in, his heart pounding. Margaret Hayes sat across from him, her expression unreadable. "Mr. Carter," she began, "do you know why you're here?" Daniel swallowed. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "About last night. I know it wasn't my place, I just saved the company from a catastrophic failure," she interrupted. He blinked. What?" Margaret leaned forward, her voice softer now. "I watched everything. Every decision. Every step. You didn't just fix the problem. You understood it in a way most of my senior engineers couldn't." Daniel didn't know what to say. He looked down at Lily, who was holding onto his leg, peeking shyly at the woman across the table. "I used to work here," he said finally. "Before everything." Margaret nodded. "I know." There was a long pause. Then she asked the question that changed everything. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" Daniel hesitated. "Because no one was looking for someone like me anymore," he said quietly. "And I couldn't afford to lose even this job." Margaret sat back, absorbing his words. Then she smiled, just slightly. "Well," she said, "I think we've made a mistake." Daniel's heart sank. But then she continued. "A very big one. And I'd like to fix it." That afternoon, Daniel Carter walked out of the building not as a janitor, but as a lead systems engineer. With a proper salary. Benefits. Flexible hours. And a small office where Lily had her own little corner, filled with books and toys instead of storage boxes. The company didn't just gain an employee. It gained someone who understood what it meant to fight for something bigger than yourself. Weeks later, Margaret implemented a new initiative, one that looked beyond resumes and titles, one that asked a simple question. What can you do, when no one is watching? Because sometimes, the strongest people aren't the ones in the spotlight. They're the ones working quietly in the dark, carrying more than anyone sees, doing the impossible not for recognition, but for love. And sometimes, all it takes is one person to finally notice. And when they do, everything changes.